What's up, guys? Welcome to Neek, which stands for Nerd/Geek, and if that relates to you, I consider clicking that subscribe button. So yeah, I finally have gotten the chance to start reading the new Hunger Games prequel book, so I'm in the mood to just talk about Hunger Games, so I decided to rank all 4 Hunger Games movies from the worst to the best. So yeah, let's get started. Coming in at 4th place is Mockingjay Part 1. Now, I don't absolutely hate this movie. I do actually like it quite a bit, but there's no reason to split this up into 2 movies. Well, besides money. It makes sense with, like, Harry Potter because Deathly Hallows is 759 pages. But Mockingjay isn't even that long of a book. It's only 390. So that's a big difference, splitting a book that's 759 pages and only 390. And this movie doesn't really hurt the series overall. It doesn't really work by itself. The film, just feels way too dragged out. There's not enough going on. And they stretch this plot very thin. But at the same time, you feel like you don't really get to spend much time with some of the different characters and stuff, which you feel like they have all this time. Why don't you? Why do so many characters get sidelined? And then also, of course, this film has no action, but it's not like they had no places to put in action, as there were multiple moments where they could have action scenes, like the one where they go to the hospital, there's the planes coming in, you see them, Gale and Candace each shoot one arrow, destroying, 2 planes, and then that's it. Even in the book, the battle is a lot bigger in the book, but for some reason they're don't have that many action scenes in here. Let's take the one that we do have and just make it super short. And then even the one where they're rescuing the tributes, there was a chance to show some action in there, but they don't actually show any actual fighting. They break in, they all have their guns out, are oh, something's gonna go down. And then it just cuts to once they save all the people, and you're like, why? And, of course, because it is just part 1, it doesn't really end satisfyingly. But there is quite a bit I like in here, how Katniss is used as propaganda, as she is, the Mockingjay, and everybody loves her. It kind of makes sense. Propaganda is a big part of war that I feel like lots of movies about war don't really focus on that much. So it's cool to see that in a movie. Also, you get to finally spend some time with Gale. He's not in it. It doesn't really do much as you want, but it is a lot more than the first 2 movies. Also, Philip Seymour Hoffman is a scene stealer as Poltridge Heavensby. I definitely messed that up, but it's actually so sad, to see this is the first movie to come out since he died. Overall, I do enjoy this movie, and I do think it's quite good, but it is my least favorite. Not by much, though. It is basically tied with my 3rd place. Coming in at number 3 is Mockingjay Part 2, and this is another kind of frustrating one for me, because there's quite a lot I do like, but there's also quite a few problems in here. It's just like Part 1 about how the pacing is really bad because of they drag out this story that does not need to be a 4-hour story into a 4-hour story. And each scene just feels a couple minutes too long. But at least this time we do have some pretty cool action scenes in it. I think they're the best in the entire series. You got the memorable one in the tunnels, which is pretty cool, and a couple other ones thrown in there. There's actually not as much action as you would expect in the big finale, but there's still some scenes there. But how it closes off the series overall is something I'm pretty mixed on, as it does some things really well, some things not well at all. It did a great job with ending both Katniss and Peeta's arcs in a satisfying way. And you even do some really interesting stuff with Peeta in here, as he is hijacked trying to get back become the good old Peeta, which I actually really liked. But everyone didn't get good closure. Like, some of the characters I did really like and stuff kind of get sidelined. Like Gale, he's in this movie a lot, but he doesn't really do anything. He's just kind of there. And then Finnick, who I thought was a scene stealer in the second one. And in the last two Mockingjay parts, he's kind of just there. And he, like, even gets married. But it doesn't really feel as big as in the books because you don't really know Annie. They don't really explore her as a character at all. And in this scene, the focus is still mainly on Katniss when it should be about Finnick. And with Gale, he's in the movie a bunch, but you don't really get to explore him as a character. Even as much as they do in the books, I think he's a pretty fleshed out character, but in the movies, he's just kind of there to be cool, I guess, and be the other person that Katniss may end up with. But I'm not sure in the movies because they don't really explore Gale that much. But I don't know if I'm the only person, but from the books, when I was reading it, I was Team Gale all the way. Yeah, I don't know if I'm the only person, just putting that out there. I thought they would have worked a lot better, but I don't hate that she ends up with Peeta. And with the ending, I am conflicted about it. On the one side, I kind of like how they show, like, how it's not just black and white, everything is gray. That seems kind of like what they're going for, and like, oh, President Coin isn't actually good. She's just a little bit of a less evil than Snow. And it was a great twist when Katniss kills her. I actually thought that was, like, really cool and stuff. But on the other hand, you don't really feel that satisfaction. Like, you don't really feel like the world is actually better. And, like, as you don't really feel the satisfaction as they capture Snow when Katniss is, like, knocked out, which I think works okay in the book, but not really in a movie setting. An example of this is in The Hobbit. In the book, during the Battle of Five Armies, Bilbo gets knocked out, and then it just skips to the end of the battle, where, like, 3 main characters die, and it all happens, well, not off screen, off book, I don't know. But I wasn't a big fan of that, how they did that in the book, but it does kind of make sense, because it takes place from Bilbo's perspective, so I was like, whatever. But in the movie, that would feel so anticlimactic, so they chose to show what happens after Bilbo gets knocked out, and you actually get to see this coming to the end of this battle, and the epic battle. And I would definitely prefer Katniss doesn't get knocked out, and she actually gets to complete her job. Maybe not kill Snow there, maybe she gets stopped from killing Snow, but she at least gets to see everything kind of end. But in the movie, even if you want to make it like the books and she gets knocked out, you could have shown what happens after she is knocked out. I don't think it would have been the best ending, but I think it would have been better than what they gave us. And, like, it just ends with just, like, this, like, not like, wow, that was the end. That was, oh, I just love this series overall. I'm so glad you don't end with that, just, like, it didn't give you that really good series, like, finale end that you get when you're just finished a TV show or big movie series. It just kind of ended like, oh, well, that's the end. I guess I won't get to watch more Hunger Games. Yeah. So, again, there's a lot I like here, but I'm also very conflicted on certain elements. And I feel like if this was one movie, it may not be last place, but it being 2 movies just really hurts it. Coming in at number 2 is The Hunger Games, and I just think this is a pretty great movie. It's a pretty straightforward adaptation of the book, and because I like the book, I like the movie. It's a great introduction to this world, and it does a great job establishing the themes of the series and the characters. You were introduced to, like, some great characters with all great actors playing them. When I was reading the book, I was, like, wondering, okay, who's gonna play Haymitch? And I saw this Woody Harrelson, I'm like, yes, perfect casting. And then Jennifer Lawrence owns the role of Katniss. She plays her so well. She's just great. And Stanley Tucci is a scene stealer as Caesar Flickerman. He's just hilarious and great. Another thing I like here is that there's 2 sides of the game. and Peeta and Katniss are good at different ones. Of course, Katniss is great at surviving the actual games and the fighting element, and but not good at like the interviews and getting people to like her and stuff. And Peeta's like the opposite. So I thought that made a really nice dynamic, and I'm really glad they played a big part in like getting sponsors and getting people to like you, which I think is something interesting than just people just fighting to the death. Like there's a whole nother element to it. But the big problem here is like kind of with the actual Hunger Games. There's a bunch of shaky cam, and they're like, okay, how do we like show teenagers killing each other but keep it PG? Let's just do a bunch of shaky cam and cut it a bunch and just like have it go everywhere. You can't really tell what's going on at all. But then even what you do see, you still do technically see them killing each other. You still see a lot of blood. So it's like, it's not like you still kind of see it, but you don't fully know what's going on. So I don't think it really worked. I think they should have just like kept it, not do all the shaky cam and stuff, and film it more like traditionally, or film like a lot better with like smoother and that sort of stuff. But then just not use like maybe as much blood, try to not make it as bloody or something. I think that might have ended up better, kind of like what they do in the second, where it still is like pretty brutal and that sort of stuff, but it's not rated R. But it doesn't, yeah, I don't know. I feel like they could have done that, kind of what they perfect in the second one. But also at the end of it, it doesn't really feel like, you don't really get a satisfying ending, because the whole time you're like, oh, you just hate the Capitol and like that stuff, and you want to see them like go down, but then they don't. And I know it's the first one of like a series, so you kind of don't want to, but I don't know, the ending didn't really leave me satisfied. But that's just a minor complaint because I get why. But coming in at number 1 is The Hunger Games: Catching Fire. As it wouldn't make sense to go straight from the first one into a full rebellion, I'm glad we have this movie to build tension between the districts and kind of and show how like this one act can kind of start the spark that will eventually start this rebellion. And like the tension throughout the entire movie just keeps building and building and building. I think it's all really, really interesting, that sort of aspect of it, and like how this world they created, the government stuff, all that I think is just really cool, well done stuff. And this movie also takes everything I love about the first film and builds on it. We get to build on the characters from the first one, but we also get introduced to a bunch of more great characters from great actors. One of my favorites being Finnick. The action is bigger and better this time, and then there's no shaky cam. The arena is more than just like the woods. The clock thing's actually really interesting, and you got a bunch of different types of action, not just people like fighting each other. And the fact that all the people are past winners and they all know what they're doing, it actually like makes it a lot more interesting to see those people fight when they actually kind of know what they're doing than just random people like not really knowing what they're doing. And then you also feel more with this Hunger Games as you actually get to know the people this time. With the first one, like the only person I knew their name besides Katniss and Peeta was Rue. That's the only one I cared about. But now you have Finnick, Joanna, Beetee, Wires, Mags, and Katniss and Peeta, and there's a bunch of people you really care about, and you don't want any of them to die. Also, the Hunger Games doesn't actually start until an hour and 20 minutes into the movie, yet you don't feel like bored during that time. I was equally invested before the Hunger Games than during the Hunger Games, and I think that just proves how great these characters are in the world they created. About even when there's not action going on, you can still be invested into this story. And overall, this is by far the best Hunger Games movie. So that is my ranking for all 4 Hunger Game movies. Comment down below your ranking of the Hunger Games movies. Are you excited? Have you read the books? How do they compare? Have you read the new prequel book? Are you excited they're making another movie based off that? Just tell me all your thoughts about the Hunger Games down below in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and keep watching Neek.